Chapter 8 Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Lancelot was welcomed back to Camelot as a returning hero. King Arthur and Guinevere and the Knights of the Round Table were astounded at the great feats he had achieved. Guinevere loved Lancelot more than ever. Sir Gawain and his brother Agravain and Sir Kay, who had been rescued from the clutches of the evil Sir Turquin, went down on their knees to thank their rescuer. Sir Meliot, whose wounds Lancelot had healed with the piece of cloth from the Chapel Perilous, was in tears of gratitude. Only Sir Gawain, the youngest warrior of the Round Table and a nephew of the king, did not think Lancelot had been completely honourable. Gawain remembered the day when Lancelot, dressed in Sir Kay's armour, had fooled him and the two other knights. They had attacked Lancelot, thinking he had stolen the armour, but Lancelot had unhorsed all three and ridden off. "Brother-in-arms," King Arthur told Sir Gawain, "do not upset yourself. You should be proud that you were rolled over by the greatest knight of all." But Arthur's kind words were not enough for Gawain. He felt he had something to prove, and the brave young warrior took the first chance he had to show the Round Table that he was as worthy as any. The opportunity came one New Year's Eve. Arthur and his warriors were feasting in the great hall at Camelot, but something was missing from their celebrations. They all loved to hear great stories of brave knights and enchanted castles, but since Lancelot's return, nothing seemed to have happened. "Life at Camelot is so quiet," said the king. "What would I give for some new adventures to happen?" At that very moment the huge door to the hall crashed open, and a knight on horseback rode in. The feasters were startled, looking aghast at the strange figure. He was dressed from head to foot in green. Even his horse was covered in green cloth. His face was hidden by a green helmet, yet, strangely, he wore no other armour. No knight in his right senses would ride abroad without his armour, but in his hand was a gleaming battle-axe, and this he swirled above his head in the most frightening way. "I know not who you are," said King Arthur, "but you are welcome to join our feast this New Year's Eve." The Green Knight roared his defiant answer. "I have not come here to make merry at your feast, but to discover just how brave the Knights of the Round Table really are." "Knavish knight," said the king, "there is no challenge my gallant warriors will not accept. Come, challenge us now." "'Tis this," said the Green Knight. "I am happy to allow one of your knights to take my axe and strike me with just one blow. I will not defend myself." "What madness is this?" said Lancelot. "You will let us kill you with one blow, and you wouldn't defend yourself?" "That is part of the challenge," said the Green Knight. "The other part is that, in 12 months' time, on New Year's Eve, the man who strikes that blow must return to me and allow me to take one blow at him." "Now there," said Arthur. "That is a matchless challenge. Which of you is prepared to lose an arm or a leg to honour this challenge?" The Green Knight interrupted. "It is no arm or leg I talk about. I say who will lose a head and think nothing of it." The Green Knight eyed them all, waiting to see if anyone would accept. But there was complete silence. They were thinking, firstly, that they could not kill a defenceless knight, and secondly, that it meant certain death in a year's time if they didn't. "What cowards you are!" cried the Green Knight. "I knew that all I had heard about the Round Table was empty boasting." That was too much for King Arthur. He thundered out his reply. "No man shall speak so of my court. I shall accept the challenge myself." The Green Knight was delighted. He leapt from his horse and handed Arthur his battle-axe. The Knights of the Round Table rose as one. "This is no challenge for our king," they said. "It's mine," cried a voice from the back of the hall. It was Gawain. "I beg you, let me accept this task." The king and the knights tried their best to persuade Gawain to stand down, but he would not. He was set on meeting the Green Knight's terrifying test. "Come, good knight," said the challenger. "Here's my axe, and here's my head." The Green Knight knelt down and bared his neck. "Before you strike," he said, "you must promise to meet me in a year's time at the Green Chapel. I shall be waiting." "You have my word," said Gawain. "But what if my blow kills you?" "Then 'tis a challenge well done. Delay no more. Strike." Gawain raised the axe and struck the unflinching knight. The blow took off his head. Head and helmet rolled bloodily across the floor. There was silence for a moment, and then the Green Knight's headless corpse stood up and walked towards the head. Guinevere, who was at the feast, fainted to the floor. Others cried in horror at the gruesome sight. The rest watched speechlessly as the corpse picked up its head and returned it to its shoulders. "A good strike," said the Green Knight. "Now remember your promise. Meet me at the Green Chapel a year from now." Spring came, and then summer. The months passed too quickly for Gawain. Then it was autumn, and soon the snows of Christmas came again. Arthur felt so sorry for his young knight, but told him that he was honour bound to meet the knight again. New Year approached, and the knights of the Round Table held a feast to wish Gawain good luck on his terrible journey. But they all knew in their hearts that they would never see Gawain again. Gawain had no idea where the Green Chapel was, so he left Camelot several days before New Year's Eve. He too was sure that death awaited him there, but he did not want to show his fear by arriving late. On Christmas Eve, the lonely knight spotted a castle. Gringolet, exhausted, gallantly carried his master to the gates. Gawain received a truly Christmas welcome from the master of the castle, Sir Bertilac. He treated him as an honoured guest and let him sit beside his beautiful young wife during the celebrations on Christmas Day. That night, Bertilac asked Gawain where he was travelling to. Gawain explained that he had to reach the Green Chapel by New Year's Eve, and asked if anyone knew where it was. "Don't worry," said Bertilac. "It is close by, so relax and enjoy Christmas here. We will send you on your way in good time." The next day, Bertilac made Gawain a strange promise. He said that he would be out hunting for the next few days. "But I promise to give you everything I catch while I'm hunting if, in return, you give me anything which comes your way while you are in the castle." Gawain thanked the knight for his kindness and agreed. The next morning, after Bertilac had left for the hunt, Bertilac's wife came into Gawain's chamber and confessed that she had fallen in love with him. Gawain would not listen to her words of love. He could not dishonour the man who had given him such kind hospitality. He told her to leave, and she did, but not before stealing one single kiss. That night, Bertilac returned with a deer and gave it to Gawain, who, keeping to his promise, gave the knight the only thing that had come his way that day, a kiss. "'Tis strange," said Bertilac. "I wonder where that kiss came from." The next day, when Bertilac went hunting, his wife came to Gawain again. Still he turned away her affections because he did not want to be disloyal. But she stole a second kiss. That night Bertilac brought Gawain a wild pig and received the kiss in return. On the third day, Bertilac's wife came to Gawain and, despite his protestations, stole a third kiss and gave him a scarf of green silk lace to remember her by. Gawain dared not refuse her gift, but hid it beneath his cloak. When Bertilac returned that night, he had a fox for the young knight. Gawain gave him the kiss, but not the green silk. "You are a lucky man," said Bertilac. "Each day I have been out, some pretty damsel has been giving you kisses. I would dearly love to know who gave them to you, but honour forbids me from asking you to give me her name." The matter was soon put aside, as Gawain pointed out that the next day was New Year's Eve, and asked Bertilac how he could find the Green Chapel. Bertilac explained that it was but an hour's ride away, and gave him directions. That night they feasted for the last time together. Gawain shuddered at the thought of the coming day, but he remained cheerful, just for the sake of his kind host Sir Bertilac. The next morning Bertilac was nowhere to be seen when Gawain got up. He saddled Gringolet and, after asking Bertilac's wife to thank her husband for his hospitality, he set off towards the Green Chapel. On the way he asked a traveller if he was on the right road. "It is right enough," said the man, "but only a fool would go there. Death awaits you there." Gawain wished he could turn Gringolet around and escape his destiny, but bravely he continued on. Soon he entered a steep-sided gully where the track came to a dead end in front of a high crag. Coming closer, he saw that there was a narrow entrance in the rock. He dismounted and, shaking from head to foot, entered. Gawain found himself in a dark cavern, lit only by a few candles. The flickering light cast a ghostly air. He shivered and called out in a quivering voice, "Show yourself, Green Knight. I, Gawain, loyal knight of King Arthur, have come to honour my promise." "Gawain, you are as honourable man as I ever met." Gawain saw a figure loom from the shadows. It was the Green Knight, his battle-axe in hand. "Whether your honour will save your head is another matter," said the knight grimly. "Now prepare. Let me have the blow you owe me. Kneel and bare your neck." Gawain knelt as the knight approached. "I am ready," said Gawain, who knew death was but a moment away. The Green Knight raised the axe high above his head. Gawain's shoulders gave an involuntary twitch. "Come, good knight, I cannot strike you while you twitch as if you were frightened," said the axeman. "If I shake, it is because, unlike you, sir, I cannot put back my head once it has rolled across the floor," said Gawain. "Come, show how brave you are," said the Green Knight. "Prepare again." Gawain hung his head, and this time his courage held every muscle firm. "Strike now," he cried. The Green Knight's axe fell. It sliced through the air at such a pace nothing could have stood in its path. Gawain felt it cut into the skin on the back of his neck, but nothing else. At the last second, the Green Knight had stopped the axe with a shudder. It cut a mark on Gawain's neck, but nothing else. Only a few drops of blood were spilt. Gawain slowly lifted his head and looked up. The Green Knight had taken off his helmet. Gawain recognized the face instantly. It was Bertilac. "Good Sir Gawain," he said, "the challenge I gave in King Arthur's court has been well met. I could have taken your head, but there was no need. My challenge was to prove your courage and honour. You have done that. But yet I cut your neck for the fine silk my wife gave you, the one you kept a secret." Gawain suddenly realized Bertilac already knew where the kisses had come from. He grasped his sword in case Bertilac struck him for those kisses. "Have no fear," said Bertilac. "It was my plan. I asked my wife to tempt you with words of love. It was to test your honour, and you did well. Each time she came, you turned her away. You have proven your worth in both honour and bravery. The silk scarf and the scar about your neck will be your witness that the challenge has been met." Bertilac took Gawain back to his castle, and everyone celebrated with a huge feast. The next day, Gawain left for Camelot. What a welcome he received! Although some thought it must be Gawain's ghost which had returned. But Gawain showed them the scar on his neck and the green scarf. They were amazed at his story. King Arthur embraced him warmly. "'Tis a brave knight who rides to a certain death and yet returns." From that day on, Gawain wore the green silk scarf on his armour as a mark of true honour. Lancelot promised his bold friend that he would never dare to play tricks on him again.